call the Air Shirley Regional High School School Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 2nd to order at 6:45 p.m. Those attending tonight's meeting should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by APAC and ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chairpersons who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass Wiretap statute. The listings of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Per the Air Shirley Regional School Committee Policy BEDH, public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens and the school committee. It is a citizen's opportunity to express an opinion on issues of school committee business. Citizens will have 3 minutes to express their views. Any staff members addressing the committee are reminded of their obligations under state and federal student record laws with respect to maintaining the confidentiality of student record information and refraining from disclosing any personally identifying information regarding students. All right. We should do the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Showed you do the roll?
Mr. Bresnahan? Mrs. Bernard? Here. Mr. Quinty? Mrs. Reshus? Here. Mr. Ruprecht?
Here.
Ms. Span?
All right. Sorry, I was expecting public participation. I think we've already had the first student showcase, and are we ready for the student representatives?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I would like to thank Mr. Moore for bringing his wonderful students tonight. Great. And showing us their programs and what they're doing. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Moore. He didn't hear me. He's probably already gone.
Mrs. Chrissy, would you pass along our thanks to Mr. Moore and the students for...
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're ready for our student representative.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
I hope everybody had well, I guess not everybody had a break. I guess the students had a break, but I hope everybody had a good holiday week. I got to make a lot of New Year's resolutions. My big resolution this year is that I'm gonna stop being on my phone as much, I guess, because I know as teenagers we're on our phone a lot, but this year I'm trying to not be on my phone as much, and I'm like, do more reading, because I actually really love to read, and I want to get back more into my reading passion. I used to read at least 40 books a year, so I'm trying to get back into that this year. So that's one of my big resolutions. The semester's ending, and so I'm excited for the classes to switch. I'm only having one class switch this semester, so I'm switching from dollars and cents to RAD. So I'm actually really excited about that because dollars and cents was fun, but it wasn't my favorite class. It was good to learn all about the finances and stuff I need for the future, but sometimes it could be a little bit of a bore. But I got to do a fun civics project where we talked about implementing a school garden, and that's going to be in the works in the spring with another group. But I'm excited to take RAD. Really excited to do some personal safety. Kind of sad though that I might have to take off these really long nails though to do that, but I get to learn a bunch of new things, so I'm probably and I get to use those. Well, I won't actually use them, but if I need to, I will use those personal safety that I learned. And then in the new year, I'm getting my license this year, so I'm really excited about that. Finally have some freedom, get to drive around with my friends. My parents won't have to drive me to these all the time. I'll drive myself finally. But I'm really excited to get my license and just have some so much freedom and get to drive myself to school now. So that's fun. And that's it for my little thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So when you drive to school, is there a fee, parking fee or anything?
It is, but I don't know how much it is.
Oh, that's what I was curious about. I bet Mr. Christie does.
Christy, do you know
Sure.
I mean, you don't think these things are free just before you get too excited about driving to school.
So if you're parking for the year, I believe it's $200. If you're going to park halfway through the year, the price does go down to $100. So it's affordable to students who do wish to drive themselves, although parking spaces are going fast. So for anyone who's still interested in gaining a parking spot for the year, act quickly.
better buy mine soon then?
You should.
Well, do you have a car?
Yes, I do have a car.
What do you got?
I have a Ford Explorer.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's nice, but it's really big. So my parents are like, "That's what you're gonna drive."
You
So-
get used to it. And driver's ed is done?
No, I haven't even done that. I got my permit without the driver's ed.
Okay.
So now I have to finally do the driver's ed and all the driving classes and stuff.
And you can parallel park it.
Are you the oldest?
No, I have an older sister,
How much older?
5 years older.
So your parents are going to have to do the driver's ed class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're worried. They're like,
Yeah.
"Well, she was born a year earlier, so we could just not
Yep.
have to do it again."
Who's sponsoring the gas? Who's sponsoring the gas?
Me when I finally get a job. So once I get the license and the job, then I'll be paying for the gas and all that stuff. So,
It's a step-by-step.
yes, step by step.
All exciting stuff. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nia.
So I did ask Mr. Moore just to come in just for a moment because I know you wanted to thank him.
Oh, well, thank you guys for letting us come in and show our wares. Those guys love it, and I did open it up to as many kids as I could, but, you know, after sports and after a day of school,
Right.
this is not always the next place they want to be.
I mean, the first day back from vacation, they didn't
Yeah,
want to
the first
stay and come to a school committee meeting. There was a good amount of kids here. I
Yeah,
thought that was great.
Yeah, I know, I love doing it. I love what they create. That's kind of the best part of it. As you saw, you know, the sky's the limit, really. Those guys who made the app that tracks you out in the woods, they did all their work in school, but then they were out literally in the woods testing it. And so they had to do videos showing that it functioned the way they wanted it to. And there was the whole blooper reel that went with them out in the woods testing their apps. So it was just a lot of fun. I think the kids really enjoy it. And so that's why I switched over from teaching biology to this. It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for bringing them. This was fantastic.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
And I also, we were fortunate Sebastian had some free time too, so with his very impressive robotics program.
Yeah.
So that's the result of the different grants that I wrote this last year, so we could get those. So it was part of the PLTW, and then I'm going to forget the other corporation that was so generous to us.
1-8. The 1-8 Foundation?
No, that was PLTW 1-8, that was part of it, but then there was another group that gave us $2,500, which all combined for that. So that's been an absolute godsend, a great addition. I think we did some fun things before with what we had, but those really upped everything. So having sensors, the light sensors as you saw, having pressure sensors so they can they made a game out of it, but to have something that responds to the little press of a button. So they had that on the vehicle, and they were playing tag. Every time they tagged each other, the light would go off in the back, and then they had a counter running so that they would be able to keep score. So it adds a whole new level of complexity because those extra motors, the claw, all of it, very difficult and a great challenge to them, but a whole new level of complexity.
Yeah, it's great. It's changing trajectories for kids too. Like,
100%.
I'd asked a couple of them, do you see yourself going into this as a career? And both said yes. And I'm sure if I would have asked more, they would have too. So that's what we want to do. So that's great.
Well, this is the closest thing as we come to as talented and gifted, right? When we have stuff like that.
I'm not going to be too, warm and fuzzy about it. I think there's a lot of opportunities for talented and gifted everywhere in this building.
Right, with art and music.
But in all of it's math, science, there's always those moments. Why I switched over is this is the stuff that I love doing. And I was able to learn a whole new thing, which was perfect for me. But it's the same thing that I felt, learning how to program and going back to my roots and learning how to do these robots. When we talk about talented and gifted, it's inspired and enjoying. Like
Right.
There's so much to be said for it. It's not so much whether you're the biggest dog in the fight. It's how much energy you're putting into what you're doing. How much you don't have to be the brightest kid in the world to stay with a program for hours and hours and go down a rabbit hole and create something so impressive and outdo yourself. But because you attacked the problem and enjoyed it. So when people say talent gift, I wrestle with that, and that's why not to be
No,
too
right,
long-winded, but I think it's the endeavor of every teacher everywhere in every school in every country and place. How do we get kids to just
Reach out.
follow their own path and
Right.
and go and get energetic in their own learning? So that's what I think.
The gentleman who did the volleyball, the dodgeball game, he was saying how long it took him. He was saying he had to work and work and work and work at it to get it to function, which is great.
Yeah, I think that was when he just started, so it was 400 blocks of code later. Now, how many of us would actually take and keep manipulating 400 pieces and putting them in, right? I mean, you'd stick a knife in, a ice pick in your eye at a certain point, but you don't do that when you really love what you're doing. And so
Right.
that guy just went to town. I joke with him, I say it's going down the rabbit hole, and they do it. And so lucky that he was in the class to do it, and I'm glad he found a platform where he could be really excited.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
don't usually have fun at these meetings, so this is
Well, I'm glad-
this is our opportunity to want to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you, Phil.
And thanks, Mr. Christie, for letting us do this.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready for, or have any public participation? All right. I think we can move on to the consent agenda. And we have the December 20th regular session minutes for release. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, which is the December 20th, 23 regular session minutes.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. New business, budget discussions.
Want me to head?
Yeah.
Take off?
Go ahead.
Well, we've begun initial discussions with the towns of Air and Shirley on our budget. They're very interested to see what our starting point is. We've been to both towns to present the issue we have with our grants, with our ESSER grants, ending on September 2024. And the positions that we have built into that grant have helped to address learning loss and the social emotional aspect of our students' impact from COVID. And we're finding that we're dealing with a lot more behaviors. So we brought on two BCBAs, ABAs, and RBTs to deal with some of the behaviors we're seeing. So we've added a lot of staff, and we're trying to creatively come up with a way to work with the towns to maintain as many of these positions as we can, and also have a reasonable assessment for both towns. So tonight, in your packet, I have two documents that we use to do our planning for the budget. The first one is the budget drivers, assumptions, and projections. And what I do is at the top, I take a look at our revenue, revenue streams that we know about. Chapter 70, we know that we are going to get whatever we got in FY24. The governor's budget has $60 per student in additional Chapter 70 aid. So that's about $154,000 more in Chapter 70 than we got last year. Transportation reimbursement, just going to be about the same. Last year we budgeted $500,000. This year we're budgeting $485,000, so it's down a little bit. Medicaid, it's funny because they said that they enhanced the program so we would get more reimbursements, but it kind of closed it up a little bit for us, although we will be seeing transportation allowed in our Medicaid reimbursements going forward. And we've already seen it. It's being phased in, so that will help us. But I did drop that down a little bit this year because our actual for FY23 was $106,000. And we had budgeted 175, so I wanted to move that back down a little bit. Charter reimbursement is pretty stable. We're going to leave that at 90,000. And last year, the FY24 budget, we transferred 300,000 from E&D to our capital stabilization fund, basically to replenish the amount that was earmarked for the athletic field project. So that's TBD. That'll be, once we have our E&D certified, we can, the committee can determine what transfers they want to make. And that's like our free cash. We can use it until June 30th for the next year's budget. And after that, you cannot tap into it. The middle section is our drivers, and these are the things that we know are going to impact our budget. These are our high-priced tickets. Health insurance, we belong to the Maya group. It's a cooperative purchasing group for our Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance, and they're saying that we're going to come in with a 6 to an 8% increase. So I put in just under 7%. So that's an increase of $259,000. Transportation has gone up significantly. We had a 16% increase in the first year of our 3-year contract with D in FY23, and we're looking to increase our budget to our FY24 contract rate plus 3%. We're adding on 3% for FY25, so that should keep us in line where we should be. Sped transportation is the same thing. It's that's a little bit more of a wild card with all the vans that we have and the routes. But a lot of our kids are going to the collaborative, so hopefully we'll be able to save some funding there, since so many are attending certain collaboratives that are close to us. Charter tuition out is pretty stable. We have an estimate of 970, just like we had for last year, so we're going to stay with that. So that comes across flat. Out of district collaborative tuitions, we have seen a slight rise because that's where most of our enrollment is for our out of district students. They're attending Keystone is one of our big ones, Valley. There's 3 or 4 main ones that we're going to, but Keystone is the biggest. We also have our salaries for all staff. This year we're going to need $935,000 for funding our contract increases. We have $268,000 more this year, and that includes teachers 4% plus the COLA, and a 4% COLA for all 4 of the ASME units. They just ratified their 3-year contract, so we're going to be totally funding all those increases, as well as non-union and admin positions. Choice out, we're funding that or budgeting that level at $710,000. And McKinney-Vento transportation for homeless, we're going to bump that up a little bit. We saw an uptick with the EA shelter in air. We had 3 families. 2 of them were getting transportation to Boston, and 1 family that was going to Haverhill. So we are responsible for half of the transportation of getting them to their school of origin. So they're coming to Air to the shelter, and they could be already attending another school in the Commonwealth. So we are responsible to split that with the school of origin. So we're going to bump that up 5,000 for next year. So if you add in the decrease of revenue of 229,000 plus the increase of expenditures of 760, it's an increase to the general fund budget of 989,000. The bottom section is two of our larger revolving funds, school choice and circuit breaker, and we're looking to level fund those, to budget them level. So we're not anticipating any major changes in those numbers. They've been very consistent. So on your next sheet is the total roll-up for our budget, the FY25 preliminary budget with the budget compared to the last 2 years. And then the second to last column to the right is the change from fiscal year 24. And you can see the percentage increases for our general fund. The first section of expenditures, cost centers, is our general fund, and that's coming in at a 5.8% increase overall. And remember, this is strictly preliminary. We're still working. We'll be taking input from our department heads and our principals, and also the town FinComs and boards of selectmen. And the next section deals with transportation. Transportation, we have an 8.7 increase for the budget. And debt. Debt is even. That's our notes that we have for the high school renovation for this building, and also for the athletic field. So that note is pretty stable. It is a 20-year note, so that levels out our percentage increase to 4.5% for those, 4.6 for those two items. So overall, for all the general fund items, including transportation and debt, 4.7% increase. The next section down is the revenues, kind of a repeat of what we just saw on the driver spreadsheet that we shared. Shows you the revenues compared to last year, and we're down about 2.4% in general fund revenues. We then calculate the assessment, which would be all the general fund expenditures minus the revenue from the state. The general fund revenue gives us the assessment, which with the debt is about 7.7% with the debt added in. The bottom section is our revolving and grant funds, which do not affect the assessment, but we do use them for part of our budget. So it doesn't affect the assessments to Air Shirley, but it is used for part of our budget for teaching salaries, extended day, several circuit breaker for out-of-district tuitions. We use it for many, many different categories to supplement the budget. So that's where we are so far. Like I said, it is early. We don't have the numbers from the state yet. We don't have the Chapter 70 numbers. We don't have the foundation enrollment numbers yet. I believe the foundation enrollment numbers come out on the 9th. And the Chapter 70 is usually corresponding to when the governor does the governor will do her budget the last Wednesday of the month. So those come out at the end of the month, and we'll have firmer numbers.
Foundation end of the month.
Foundation, January 9th. Yep, and that's what determines the regional agreement calculation for splitting the funding that's above required local contribution. And the Chapter 70 sets the required local contribution, and that's based on the foundation enrollment. How many students Air and Shirley are responsible for. Doesn't matter if they go to Air Shirley or if they're choiced out or chartered out, they're all factored into our foundation enrollment.
Well, this, just to make sure this includes 12 ESSER, right?
Oh, yes. Yep.
So part of this is there are 12 positions that are currently being funded through the ESSER grant that is added into this budget. So there is some prioritizing that we have to do, and some decisions we have to make if we're going to actually save 12 of these positions than ESSER. So we're really looking at, this is worst case scenario, right?
And are those showing up in the individual school building line items, or are they, right, like if I'm looking at the preliminary budget in the expenses section, those 12 roles are sort of distributed across?
I
or do they
put
show-
it in as a placeholder under other districts.
Oh, okay.
The very last cost center before you get to the
That was gonna be
transfers.
my, perfect.
So that's the 12 times 64,000. I used an average of 64,000.
Yep.
That was the average of the salaries of the people that are in that grant.
So that, under preliminary for other districts, that's how much we'd need to keep all 12 positions.
Yeah, it also includes choice out and charter out.
But you don't expect to change?
Not in charter and choice are very steady, although we're hoping the choice will be up. Choice in will be up this year, FY25.
Yeah, choice in will be up. We did accept school choice this past summer, where the summer before we had made the decision because of COVID to almost accept none. I think maybe we had 3 or 4 school choice kids. I think this year around 30. So that should be a fairly significant increase. Looking at these numbers, it's hard to say, but I'm actually rather optimistic about this, knowing that we are putting a majority of these ESSER positions into this now and coming up with these numbers before we start looking at our school choice and some of our entitlement grants and start using them in the way that they were intended as a way to transition positions into. So there is a possibility that we won't be looking to fund all 12 through the general fund. We might be able to use school choice for a couple. We might be able to use an entitlement grant for 1 or 2. So there's room for us to move with this somewhat. There's a couple of other things that are happening that I think might be helping us. Mr. Pompion is setting up we are setting up a meeting with our local representatives to speak of the issue that's happening with many small regional districts. This isn't just us, to see if there's any type of support the state can give us, even if it's in the form of a transition grant, so that we can transition and save these mental health positions and some of these reading specialist positions, which we intend to do one way or another. So that we can ease this in. We're going to do that with or without the state's help. There is a little bit of optimism there that there was some money promised to the district when it was regionalized to get going that some people feel we never received. That may be an angle that we might have some success at. But with where we are now and how early it is, I'm actually fairly optimistic of where we are with these percentages now, knowing that we're going to have to work this for both towns.
On that $268,000 increase, how much of that is with current employees, and how much of that is new positional?
180 for all the unions,
Right.
the four ASME units,
Right.
the teachers union,
Yep.
and non-union and admin, which includes extended day, early learning,
Right.
all the other programs, all the ancillary programs. We have built in all that, and there also, we have lane changes built into that. We have quite a few staff members for the teachers unit that have put in for lane changes for next year. Their contract allows for it. They have to put it in by January 15th for the following year, and they can change lanes with the appropriate credits and proof of, passing to that next level.
So right now, I believe that number right now, we're anticipating at least with the letters that we have, $140,000 increase there with just lane changes.
So that's
Right.
included in the 268.
So we had 60 included, so we added 80,000 to what we needed for all the contract increases for lane changes, because we had 60 in the budget.
Yeah, so that, yes, it does now include the 140, yeah.
Okay.
And the hard thing about that is that's anticipated. So last year, I think we had 70,000 anticipated, it actually was 60,000. So with the 140,000 anticipated, it could come back at 90. It could come back less. You know,
It could
and
come
with
back
that,
at 200.
well, it could, but they have until January 15th to get us those letters. And anything after January 15th wouldn't be applied until the following year, because we have to be able to budget, which is why they have to get us their intent of that lane change by the 15th. You know, there could be a couple people that haven't submitted that letter yet, but unless a lot of people are taking spring courses and don't have their transcripts, I can't imagine it's going to be a huge bump up in the next 2 weeks, but we'll know soon enough.
Chris, can I just go ahead and ask, or
Yeah,
I'm trying to be
please.
nice here?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a trivia question on the health insurance for employees. Is that 6.6% the increase in the health insurance, or is it a combination of increased people and increase in the fee?
Well, it's a
And if you don't know, that's
combination-
okay.
It's a combination of both,
Yeah, that's why,
because our head count is very important, as
Sure.
is the rate. The rate is set by, in this case, Maya, and it's a trust. So what they do is they have underwriters that analyze each member based on your claims to premiums, and then they come up with that, a tighter number within that range.
so that 6.6, which is pretty hefty, on millions. Yeah, it's 6.6. So, because we've had the new positions, which have to influence that, because we have a higher number of people. And do we know from Maya, have they set what their increases are?
That
Or
happens-
our increases according to them, I
They-
guess is probably.
they,
'Cause it's not a general increase across the whole Maya, right?
There's
It's
the
tied to
MMA
you.
will set the rates at the end of the month as well, kind of in combination with the governor's numbers coming out in the Chapter 70. But they do that, they set it, it comes through that association. And that's, Maya is a member or a component of the MMA. So that's when they determine,
Into January?
yeah, that's when they start the individual rate analysis for each member.
So as far as our population is concerned, how much, and you don't have to tell me now, but how much has the population increased that's affecting that 6.6%?
So I think we had an increase of our head count of about a dozen
Okay.
staff
So it's almost
members.
the new positions.
Probably, yeah, about half.
A lot of it's the new positions, right?
Yeah.
Because they have the option of not taking the insurance.
Correct.
Right. So you think it's approximately, and I'm just trying to think here. So it's just, you think it's approximately 12 more bodies as well as their increase, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And the
just-
employee's share is 75%, so you're looking at 12 times 20,000.
Right, right. And the other thing that hit me a little bit, because that's just, moving target, I know, but it's a big moving target, if we can damp it down. The other thing that I was curious about that kind of worries me is cutting that amount out of the $15,000 out of facilities. Because I would think that the facilities don't get younger ever, and repairs and whatever, I don't know, I know it's only $15,000, it doesn't sound like much, but taking anything out of the facilities budget makes me nervous.
Well, I believe that was, we have an admin assistant in facilities who also supports athletics. And initially, we budgeted for 1.0, and that position has
So
evolved
this
into
is
a...
also a position, not just?
Yes.
Not just maintenance and maintenance costs? So this is
It's a roll-up of all...
This is a multiple,
multiple accounts.
multiple items.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And then includes salaries. So one of them is an admin assistant. That position is actually a .5. And so I was able to lower it by half that salary.
Okay, so.
It's not services or supplies.
Okay, so services and supplies and repairs are all included in that, right?
Yes.
Maintenance and repairs and running the
Utilities.
utilities and
Yep.
all that good stuff. Okay, so since I know, although the price of oil, I just spent the whole day working on trying to save money on electrical and stuff at the store. So to reduce that, which that's a moving target, we have no idea what it's going to be, even though everybody says this, that, and the other. It's not going to go down.
No, but we have the solar credits that we bought into, and that's a 20-year project.
So the
We're
solar credits are in there also?
still going, yep. We
Okay.
have aggregate purchasing
need
for
to understand what it is.
electricity. We have a broker, and we commit to a certain amount of electricity for all of our buildings except for the middle school, which is through Mass Development. And then we also just did the
Right.
same thing with our gas. Since we converted Page Hilltop over to gas, and the high school's gas, and middle school is gas, but that's Mass Development again. We bought aggregate purchasing for our gas consumption too.
So does this include repairs?
Yes. Facilities?
So have we examined repairs that we might need next year? Have we tried to forecast what those might be?
We're pretty good with our repairs. Capital items have been coming up, and that's a separate budget. So that would be a request from the committee to transfer out of capital stabilization.
Oh, okay.
If there's an emergency, capital stabilization, if we don't have it in the budget.
Right.
There'll be a couple of requests. For instance, we need new lights and sound system in both auditoriums, both in the high school and middle school auditoriums. So that will be a request that we will make out of cap stabilization at some point.
So the state, I guess, has a chance of reinstating its emergency repair grant thing, what do they call it? Emergency repair,
Accelerated.
They have the accelerated repair, and there's a green repair. I don't know, is that being reinstated?
I think the accelerated repair is what
There was a
everybody was
pause on
screaming
it.
the most about.
Yeah.
The green repair is interesting too, though, because it does things like you can change all of your lights to LED, get rid of all the fluorescent incandescent lighting. It would be a huge help. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's coming back, but the accelerated repair is.
It is.
It's something we.
Do they have a date? I mean, do they really mean it's coming back? What do you think?
I could get all of that information and share it with you and present that at the next school committee. I don't have exact dates.
No,
But there
I
have
mean,
been emails that is opening back up.
That's going to happen.
Yeah, yes.
No, I mean, to me, that's a concern always.
Yeah,
you know.
windows, doors, and roofs, and boilers, right? That's what.
Yeah.
Windows, doors and roofs, roofs and doors.
Yeah, that could be a song.
And then there's the minor shuffle. And there's the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
No, just to take something out of that budget. So what you took out there was that halftime position, basically,
Yes.
So it's
which was in
0.5
there this year.
It's in 0.5 in facilities, and the other half is in athletics. Is that how that happened?
No, she's only working .5.
Oh, okay.
So we
Gotcha.
had 1.0 in the budget.
Gotcha.
Between the two of them, and now
It's one
0.5.
person, she's here 20 hours a week, and she supports athletics and facilities.
sorry. I hope I wasn't too long.
No?
Any other questions, Joyce?
I'll think of something, keep going.
Okay, Ashley, Jim?
Those are just the ones I popped out.
All right. Great, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
So I believe we're going to start with an update on the gymnasium.
That'll be quick.
Bill?
So, they were supposed to start today in earnest, but they haven't really set up too much. They were prefabbing some of the metal girders at their shop. I guess they're setting them up so they'll have the ready for the hardware. There has to be like a certain hole in the middle, and so the joists have to go together. It's a C joist that goes together. So they're prepping them, prefabricating them at their shop in Sutton, and then they're coming tomorrow. They have started putting down protective matting on the gym floor around the whole perimeter. They're coming in with their lifts and their materials tomorrow. They said they're picking up the steel girders on their way here, so they should be here at 7:30, and they'll get the man lifts in the gym, and they'll hopefully start work tomorrow.
What time should we be here to?
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, and hopefully anytime after 7:30.
We could come with, pom-poms.
I think we can peek in, but I don't know if we want to be in there when they're
We
setting
wouldn't
up.
get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, please don't get in the way.
Don't get in the way.
Don't slow them down anymore.
Okay, and since we can't have Mr. Kendall here to do the sports report, I asked Mr. Cleary to do it in hopes that he does a better job and is more entertaining than how I
No
typically
pressure.
do it.
Thanks so much. So filling in for Mr. Kendall.
With enthusiasm and.
I'm going to do my best, Joyce. So boys basketball is currently at 4-2 and is going to host Tohoto Friday night at the middle school. Tommy Bergen and Zach Iannacone are among the Central Mass leaders in points per game. Girls basketball has played really well. Unfortunately, their record is stuck at 1-5. They've had all their losses have been against excellent teams, and they'll be hosting Oakmont on Wednesday at 6:30 at the middle school as well. Middle school teams, they will continue after taking the winter break off. Both teams are off to great starts. Both are at Tohoto on Friday before turning for home games on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Indoor track has already seen multiple school records broken at both the league invitational meets as well as the state coaches meet at Reggie Lewis Center and at the track at the New Balance.
Nice.
Boys ice hockey co-op with Lunenburg, 6-0-1 so far this season with 2 in-season tournament wins, including the annual Mark Bushnell Memorial Tournament last weekend. The Knights have 11 Air Shirley players on it. Girls hockey stands at 3-1, has received multiple goals from Air Shirley's Carly Iwa. Freshman Sierra Capone and Aurora La Cruz have also played really well. Co-op swim team with Bromfield off to another great start as both teams are 3-1. Air Shirley's Kira Fallon has several individual wins and has qualified for sectionals. Special celebration as well. Boys soccer coach Mark Justo was named the Lowell Suns Boys Soccer Coach of the Year and Central Mass Soccer Coaches Coach of the Year. So congratulations to Coach Justo on a well-deserved honor. And finally, in additional accolades, senior Arthur Ribeiro was named to the State Soccer All-Star Team. And that completes Mr. Kendall's sports update for the winter.
Oh, I thought we had some college acceptances, no?
No, nothing new since last
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
And no new college acceptances since last week. And that is it for the superintendent's report.
All right, we
Good
will
job. Much better than that.
move past the superintendent's evaluation so that Erica can present that. Any topics not reasonably anticipated? All right.
Can I just ask a question? Although it's not really something that's kind of just come up, because it wasn't anticipated 48 hours before, I guess. So with the evil head of COVID hitting us again, and the announcement today by UMass Memorial and yesterday by Mass General that they're going to be requiring their staff to have masks, and would encourage visitors and patients to have masks. Are we starting to think anything about cracking windows a couple of inches or anything else?
We haven't been considering that. We haven't received any advisories from DESE or MASs about this. I think with hospitals doing it's a little bit different of a scenario. Sick people are actively going there.
It's just
and are
an
staying there.
indicator of rise.
It is. We are monitoring it. What we did receive is 1,200 COVID tests.
I don't know the number, but they'll be here shortly.
And we're going to continue to receive those. There's going to be some sent to every school. If students have symptoms and the school nurse decides they need to go home, they will be sent home with a COVID test. So we're going to monitor it that way. All the other protocols are still in place. Certainly, if teachers are more comfortable with cracking a window in rooms that they can do that, they absolutely can.
You don't need to do it in the high school.
Right, the high school has a ventilation system where that isn't necessary. But as of right now, we're not planning on changing any real protocols because of this. We haven't seen a big uptick in the schools itself. But when that happens, we will reevaluate, and obviously, if we need to enact something, we would come to the school committee and ask for that to be happening. And I think we're actually in a uniquely beneficial place we have an airborne virus policy, not a COVID policy. So we actually could reenact that if we needed to, but at this point, we don't feel that.
No, I'm not trying to be scary about it. I'm just thinking that it is being discussed a lot, and I think we're going to get those questions from parents, staff, whatever.
Yeah, we're monitoring it closely. I think what we would probably do, what we've done with most of this is follow the CDC guidelines, and as of right now, unless that changed today, they're not.
No, I don't know that it has, but I think it's something that we need to be all aware of and thinking about.
Yeah.
I got home Saturday night from work and had a message from the 17-year-old who had worked with me that day that he had just tested positive for COVID. So this is big on my calendar right now, and better safe than sorry.
Yeah, well, that's actually, it's important to know that anyone who decides they want to wear a mask absolutely can. If we have individual students or teachers who feel like they would like to wear a mask based on who may be living in their home, if they're more susceptible to this, then they absolutely should do that.
Well, I'm seeing more and more of it at any various different gatherings and stuff. People are showing up with masks, very unself-consciously, or that maybe they're protecting other people who may be susceptible as much as being infected themselves. So it's what I'm hearing.
I would expect to see more people choosing to for themselves to do that. Yeah.
So just something that we need to not have our heads in the sand over.
Absolutely. That's something that we're monitoring.
COVID has not gone away.
Closely. It has not. No matter how much we want it to.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Communications. Anyone want to read them?
I would love to.
Thank you, Ashley.
There you go, Ashley.
All right, announcements. Wednesday, January 10th will be a 90-minute early release for grades preschool through 12. Professional development for teachers. Lunch will be served. Dismissal times, high school, middle school, 12:50. Laura White and Paige Hilltop, 1:45. And then that night there is an ASF meeting, 7 p.m. at the high school media center. There will be no school on Monday, January 15th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Friday, January 19th, a 90-minute early release for grades preschool through 12. Professional development for teachers. Lunch will be served. Dismissal times, high school, middle school, 12:50. Laura White, Paige Hilltop, 1:45. Wednesday, January 17th, school committee meeting at 6:30 in the middle school library. Wednesday, January 24th, special education parent advisory committee meeting. The topic is FCSN basic rights and understanding the IEP from 6:30 to 8:30, and it's a virtual meeting. Monday, January 29th, report cards will be issued for grades 9 through 12.
Thank you, Ashley. As far as I know, there's no need for executive session, so I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at, I can see the clock, 7:45.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well done.